So I think we can all agree that having your entire planet unified under one banner sounds pretty cool. But then again, some of you are probably not fans of history's most powerful empires, existing alongside the greatest number of slaves. So do you think your personal liberties are worth the cost of global domination? Hello friends. Today we're taking a look at how the world would work if Rome had conquered the world. Support the channel and let's get started. Intro. What if the world had never fractured into nations? What if every continent, every city, every people were united under a single flag, the flag of Rome? So I think we can all agree that having your entire planet unified under one banner sounds pretty cool. But then again, some of you are probably not fans of history's most powerful empires, existing alongside the greatest number of slaves. So do you think your personal liberties are worth the cost of global domination? Welcome to What If. This is a new series where we look at how things would be different if major historical events had played out another way. Let's start with a quick disclaimer. This isn't a video about whether Rome should have conquered the world or not. In fact, we won't be focusing much on the morally ambiguous aspects of their rule, such as the enslavement of conquered peoples or the use of torture. Rather, this is a light-hearted exploration of the mechanics of such an empire and how their systems might play out in such an extreme scenario. Now let's dive into our first chapter. Chapter 1. The Empire That Almost Did IT. At its peak, Rome stretched across 3 continents. But what if it had conquered all of them and never collapsed? Imagine a world with no US, no China, no Russia, only provinces of Imperium Romanum. Keep in mind, Rome ruled over around 60 million people at its peak. So we're talking about a planetary-scale empire here, which means you'll need a solid foundation for your supercontinent. Luckily for us, the Romans loved to build. They created aqueducts, roads, baths, forums, amphitheaters, and other structures that helped support large cities. These foundations would be key to establishing stability on a global level. Without Rome's infrastructure achievements, there's no way such a vast area could be supported. But you'll also need a system of government that could operate on a planetary level. So how would Rome have been able to govern over billions of people across several planets? Well, there are a few possibilities. One is that they would have kept expanding the Senate to include representatives from every region. In this model, global decisions would have been made by a massive Senate, perhaps hundreds or even thousands of members strong. The Senate would have appointed regional governors to oversee local administration, similar to the way Rome managed its far-flung provinces in reality. Of course, this sort of system could lead to gridlock and inefficiency. As we know from our own modern democracies, sometimes consensus can be hard to come by. So the Senate might have needed to appoint a leader, perhaps a dictator, to keep things running smoothly. But who would have taken on this role? Well, the answer might surprise you. Over time, the position of emperor may have become hereditary, eventually leading to an imperial dynasty. It's possible that figures like Augustus or Nero could have become rulers of the entire known world. And who knows how such an empire might have evolved over time. Perhaps the Galactic Republic would have been born, only to eventually fall victim to civil war. But if Rome never fell, who would they have conquered next? Most likely the Parthians, Kushans, and Xiongnu. By conquering these nations, Rome would have solidified its control over all of Eurasia. After that, it would be up to its leaders to decide what to do next. Should they head west and conquer the Celti-Iberians? Should they sail east and take on the Japanese kingdoms? Or should they explore even further, perhaps to the Americas? In this alternate timeline, there's no one to stop them. As Rome spread its influence, it would have developed a planetary identity. And what better way to solidify this than with a language? So what would the world have sounded like if Latin was the dominant language? Chapter 3. Latin Dominance. It's easy to imagine Latin becoming the common language of a unified Earth. After all, it was the lingua franca of the Roman Empire in our own timeline. But in this universe, The Romans took it a step further, imposing Latin on everyone, everywhere. Say goodbye to English, Chinese, and Hindi. All communication would be in Latin, from business meetings to school books to Netflix. We're talking about a true linguistic takeover. Imagine walking into your local cinema and hearing the latest blockbuster dubbed in Latin. No subtitles needed. Everyone would understand. You might even forget that other languages exist. After all, why learn Greek when everyone around you speaks Latin? And what would daily life be like in this linguistic empire? Well, let's imagine this. You wake up in your toga, ready to start the day. First, you grab your scroll and read the news, written in elegant Latin, of course. Then you head out to the forum and chat with your fellow citizens about the latest gladiatorial games. You make plans to meet your friends later, perhaps at the bathhouses. You spend the afternoon discussing philosophy and rhetoric, all in Latin, of course. In this world, you wouldn't just say carpe diem, you'd live it. Next, we'll examine the education system of this Roman superpower. Chapter 4. Roman Education. In a Roman-dominated world, education would be all about rhetoric, literature, and philosophy. You wouldn't learn calculus, physics, or coding. Instead, your teachers would focus on helping you speak like Cicero, write like Virgil, and think like Marcus Aurelius. Classes would be held in grand stone buildings with students sitting on stone tablets, listening intently to their professors. And instead of graduating with a degree in engineering or computer science, you'd earn a laurel wreath for your mastery of Latin literature. So if you're thinking about studying abroad in Rome, you might want to brush up on your Latin first. And what would the cities look like? Chapter 5. A World Built in Stone. Rome wasn't just a military powerhouse, it was also a construction company. Their aqueducts, roads, arches, and columns would be the envy of any alien civilization. And in a Roman-dominated world, you would see them everywhere. Imagine walking down a street lined with marble towers and grand archways. In this world, McDonald's would be built into an archway, and every city would have a Colosseum. And don't worry, you'd be able to find your way around thanks to Rome's excellent road network. So if you ever wanted to travel to Egypt, just follow the paved road straight from Athens. But what about religion and science? Would they have flourished in a Rome-dominated world? Chapter 6. Religion and Science. Rome wasn't exactly known for its tolerance towards other religions, so it's possible that Christianity would have been imposed on everyone. Or maybe the old gods like Jupiter, Mars, and Minerva would have made a comeback. We know that the Romans were big fans of reviving old religions. They did it with the Dionysian cults and the Eleusinian mysteries, so it's not beyond the realm of possibility. However, considering Rome's attitude towards non-Roman religions, it's likely that most religions outside of Roman paganism would have been stamped out. So if you were an atheist, agnostic, or follower of another religion, you'd have to keep your beliefs to yourself. As for science, who knows? The Romans weren't exactly known for their scientific advancements, so it's possible that things would have stayed relatively primitive. We do know that the Romans adopted many Greek scientific ideas, so it's possible that some advancements would have continued. But without the scientific revolution of the 16th century, it's unlikely that things would have progressed much further. Electricity might have come late to this world, and the internet would definitely be heavily censored. And what about the military? How would the Roman army adapt to a planetary-scale conflict? Chapter 7. Legions and Military. If Rome had conquered the entire world, its legions would have been the most powerful military force in existence. And while the Roman army was highly effective in its day, would it be able to hold up against futuristic weapons and technology? Let's hope so. In this world, it's likely that military service would be mandatory for all male citizens, and they would train all their lives to be ready to defend the empire. Rome was known for its advanced weaponry and tactics, so it's possible that its military would have adopted new technologies quickly. However, it's also possible that Rome's reliance on brute force and intimidation would have led to its downfall against a technologically advanced enemy. But hey, at least we'd have some really cool Roman-inspired battle armor. Finally, let's talk about the borderless world. Chapter 8. A borderless world. In this world, there would be no passports or customs. You could travel from New York to London to Tokyo without showing any identification. It would be a true melting pot of cultures, although likely with a heavy emphasis on Roman culture. So if you're tired of waiting in line at the airport, this world might be for you. However, if you're a fan of cultural diversity, this world might get old pretty fast. Imagine living in a world where everyone dresses, talks, and acts the same. It might not be so bad at first, but eventually you'd probably start to feel suffocated. That being said, it would be nice to never have to wait in line for a passport again. So it's a trade-off. Chapter 9. The Cost of Rome. While a Roman-dominated world might sound exciting at first, there are some downsides. For example, we would have lost many languages and cultures forever. English, Spanish, French, Arabic, Chinese, and Hindi would all be gone. And with them, the rich cultural heritage of each nation would disappear. In addition, the Roman emphasis on order and tradition could have led to stagnation. There's no guarantee that science and technology would have continued to advance, and it's likely that many innovations would have been stifled. Perhaps the most significant loss would be the absence of the United Nations. In a Roman-dominated world, there would be no international organization to promote cooperation and diplomacy. So is a Roman-dominated world worth the cost? That's for you to decide. Outrow perhaps it's for the best that Rome fell. What do you think? Did you enjoy this video? Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.